A woman brought a car into our place last autumn that she'd bought 8 months earlier, and she'd done everything right. She'd read the surveys, she'd picked one of the highest rated four-wheel drive SUVs you can buy, the sort that comes near the top of every reliability list printed anywhere in the world. She'd paid a fair price for a good one with a full history. She had not been careless, and she had not been unlucky. Then something went wrong with the drivetrain. Nothing dramatic, nothing catastrophic. The sort of job that on a common car is a morning's work. And she found out that the nearest place with the right equipment and somebody who'd actually done that job before was the best part of 60 miles away. The car sat on our ramp for 3 weeks waiting for a part. She had to hire something in the meantime. By the time it was all settled, the bill was more than double what the same fault would have cost her on a car half as well regarded. Nothing on that survey was wrong. The car really is reliable. It just wasn't reliable here in the sense that actually matters, which is what happens on the day it needs something. That's what I want to go through today, because there's a list going round of SUVs that an American survey rates as almost perfect, with no major problems reported by owners. And it's a good list. The data behind it is worth a great deal more than any road test written in a week. But it's American data about American cars, owned by American drivers, serviced in America. So I'm going to take the 8 from that list that you can actually go and buy here and give you the only opinion that's worth anything to you. Which of them still makes sense once you land it in Britain? Because 2 of them, in my honest view, don't. And I'll tell you which and why when we get to them. If that sounds useful, subscribe. That's the only thing I'll ask you for. My name's Danny, I'm 30 and I work in my dad's garage in southeast London. And I know exactly what you're thinking because it's the face I get about twice a week when somebody's booked their car in and I'm the one who walks out of the workshop instead of the old boy they were expecting. Fair enough. So let me tell you why I might be worth 20 minutes anyway. I grew up in that workshop. At 22, I left and went to work for a main dealer because that's where the training was and that's where the money was. 6 years, mostly diagnostics, and a fair bit of time on the service desk talking to customers. I came back at 28. And the reason that matters for a video about reliability surveys is this. I've stood on both sides of the counter. I've been the one quoting a customer for a car we could sort out that afternoon, and I've been the one telling a customer we couldn't touch theirs and they'd need to go somewhere else. Same fault, different badge, completely different day for them. That's the half of this that no survey measures, and it's the half I want to talk about. I don't sell cars, no manufacturer pays me anything, and I've got nothing to sell you at the end of this. Now, how I'm doing this, and one idea that runs through the whole video, this is not my ranking. It's theirs. I'm going down their list in their order from 8 to 1 and auditing it. So don't expect the cars to get better as we go. Expect them to get examined. 2 of them I'm going to tell you to leave alone in this country, and one of them sits fairly high up. And here's the thread. Hold on to it, because it explains every verdict I give you. A reliability score measures how often a car breaks. It does not measure what happens when it does. Those are 2 completely different things, and only one of them is in the survey. How often something goes wrong is about engineering, and engineering crosses the Atlantic perfectly well. What happens next is about how many of them are on the road near you, whether the local independent has seen one before, whether the part is on a shelf in Birmingham or on a boat, and whether there's any competition on labour rates. None of that crosses the Atlantic at all. So when I say a car doesn't make sense here, I'm almost never saying it's badly made. I'm saying the second half of the equation doesn't work in Britain. Right, and I'm not going to ease you in because the first one on their list is one of the 2 I'd tell you to leave alone. Number 8 is the Subaru Crosstrek. Let me be very clear about what I'm not saying. I'm not saying it's a bad car. The engineering reputation is earned. Subaru have been building permanent 4-wheel drive systems for a very long time, and they know exactly what they're doing. In a country where you can throw a stone and hit somebody who works on them, it's a sensible thing to own. That country is not this one. Here's the arithmetic that the survey can't do for you. Subaru sell in small numbers in Britain. Small numbers means a thin dealer network, means fewer independents who've had one in, means parts that aren't sitting on a shelf down the road, means no competition on labour when something specialist comes up. And I'll tell you what that actually looks like from where I stand, because this is the bit people don't picture. When a car we've never had in comes through the door, I'm not just quoting for the job. I'm quoting for the time it takes me to find out how the job is done, and for the risk that I order the wrong part and lose 3 days. Any honest garage prices that in. We have to. That's not us being difficult, it's the arithmetic of a workshop. That's the woman from the start of the video. That's exactly the car she bought. And there's a running cost most buyers don't find out about until the first time. On a permanent four-wheel drive car, all four tyres need to match. Same make, same model, same tread pattern, and worn to broadly similar depths. You cannot put two on the front and run the old ones on the back like you would on a normal car, because a meaningful difference in rolling circumference between the axles works the center differential against itself. So every time you need tyres, you need four, not two. Four, that's the second half of the equation, and it lands on you every couple of years whether anything's broken or not. So my verdict on the Crosstrek is short. Excellent car, wrong country, unless you genuinely need permanent four-wheel drive and you already know the name of the specialist who'll look after it. Number 7 is a Mazda again, and this one's a trap. Not a bad car, a trap in how you buy it. Number 7, the Mazda CX-5. This is one of those cars people recommend without being asked. Somebody's neighbor had one for 9 years. Somebody's brother-in-law swears by it, and the reputation is largely deserved. But that reputation is exactly what makes people careless. And here's the trap: a reliability score is built out of owner's experience. Owner's experience takes years to accumulate, which means the score you're reading was earned by a generation of car that has been on the road long enough for the faults to show up, for the fixes to be worked out, and for the garages to learn them. When a manufacturer redesigns a car and keeps the name, the badge on the tailgate is identical. The clock underneath it has been reset to 0. And I saw this from the inside, so let me put it plainly. When a brand new model landed at the dealer I worked at, we didn't know it either. We had the training and the equipment and the technical bulletins, and we still spent the first 2 years learning what actually went wrong with it in the real world, on British roads, with British owners. Everybody does. That's just what being early looks like. I'm not telling you a new one will be bad. I'm telling you that the evidence you think you're relying on is about a different car. Being early on a redesign is a decision, and it's fine to make it. It's not fine to make it while believing you're buying proven reliability, because you aren't. So the trap works like this. Somebody reads that a CX-5 is one of the most reliable family SUVs you can buy. They go out and buy the newest one they can afford on the strength of that. And they've paid a premium for reassurance they haven't actually bought. On a used one from the long-running generation, which is what I'd be looking at, listen carefully over poor surfaces for suspension knocks, check every camera and screen function works, get the tyre wear checked properly, and confirm all the recall and software work was done. And confirm the fuel. A petrol family SUV and a diesel that spent 6 years doing 3-mile school runs are not the same purchase at all. Verdict: strong car, but by the proven generation, not the familiar name. Number 6 is the second Subaru, and I'm going to give it a slightly different answer to the first. Number 6, the Subaru Forester. Everything I said about the Crosstrek applies here too. Thin network, 4 tyres at a time, specialist labour when it comes. But I'm not going to give you the same flat no, and here's why. The Forester has a job that nothing else on this list does quite as well. Upright, boxy, enormous glass you can see out of all 4 corners of it, high enough to be useful without being a nuisance, and genuinely capable when the surface is bad. If you live at the end of a track, if you're out in weather when other people aren't, if you're towing something small on wet grass, that's not a fantasy about off-roading. That's Tuesday, so the honest verdict is conditional, and I want you to be truthful with yourself about which side of it you're on. If your driving is dry roads, car parks, and the odd motorway run, you're paying a permanent premium for a capability you'll use twice a year. Buy something else on this list and put the difference in the bank. If you actually need what it does, then it earns its keep, and the running costs I've described are simply the price of the thing you needed. But go and find out who services it near you before you buy it, not after. Ring 2 places, ask what a service costs and whether they've had one in, and listen to how they answer, not just what they say. If the bloke on the phone goes quiet and then says he'd have to look into it, that's your answer. Verdict: right car for a specific life, expensive habit for everyone else. Number 5 is where we get into the powertrain that quietly dominates the top of this whole list. Number 5, the Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. Nobody buys one of these for excitement, and that's rather the point. The reason it's here, and the reason so much of the top of this list is hybrid, isn't badge loyalty. It's that a conventional full hybrid removes several of the things that most commonly go wrong on an ordinary car. Think about what a hybrid drivetrain doesn't have or barely uses. There's no conventional starter motor being asked to crank a cold engine 4 times a day. There's no clutch to wear out, and no conventional automatic gearbox in the usual sense. The friction brakes do far less work because the car slows itself by generating electricity, so pads and discs last considerably longer than you'd expect, and the engine itself spends most of its life being helped rather than being thrashed from rest. That's not marketing. That's a genuinely shorter list of things that can fail, and it's the main reason mature hybrids sit where they sit in that survey. The bit people worry about is the battery, and this is my end of the trade, so I'll put that worry in proportion. These systems are managed to keep the battery in the middle of its range rather than repeatedly filled and emptied, and repeatedly filling and emptying is what wears cells out. High-mileage examples, including a lot of taxi work, have gone a very long way indeed. I'll also say this because it comes up in our workshop. My dad's generation is more suspicious of these than mine is, and I understand why. He spent 30 years learning engines and gearboxes, and then the industry moved a big chunk of the failure points somewhere he can't see. But the numbers coming through the door are the numbers. On mature hybrids, we do less work, not more. Now the British part, and this is where I'd be slightly cautious. The Corolla Cross arrived here relatively recently, so used stock is thinner than for the older Toyota hybrids and prices haven't fully settled. You may find the same money buys you a better example of something more established. What to check? Full service history, brakes inspected properly rather than assumed to be fine because hybrids are easy on them, and a test drive long enough to get it warm. Quiet hides a lot if you only go round the block. Verdict: sound choice, but check what else that money buys before you commit. Quick thing before the top 4, and it costs you nothing. If this is useful, tap like. It puts it in front of somebody who's about to spend 25 grand on the strength of a headline. Cheers. Number 4. The Lexus UX. Take the Toyota hybrid engineering, put it in a quieter body with better materials and a nicer dealer. On the mechanical side, that's more or less what this is, and it's a legitimate thing to want. But I'm giving this one a condition, and the condition is not about reliability at all. It's small. Genuinely small in the back, and the boot is not what you'd expect from the way it looks in photographs. Everyone concentrates on the badge and the hybrid system, and nobody sits in the back seat with the driver's seat set where they actually drive. And here's the pattern I saw over and over at the dealer, because I was there when both ends of it happened. Somebody buys the smaller premium car because it's the badge they wanted at the money they had. 18 months later, they're back on the forecourt trading it in, because it doesn't work for the family. And they take the hit. The car was faultless. The purchase was wrong, and no reliability score anywhere protects you from that, because reliability only starts to matter if you keep the car long enough for it to. The real risk on a used one isn't the hybrid system, it's condition. Premium interiors invite cheap cosmetic repairs. Big wheels get curbed, and a low-mileage city car has often had a harder life than a high-mileage motorway one, because it's all been cold starts, short runs, and speed bumps. So check every electrical function, look closely at the wheels and tyres, and see whether it was serviced on time or only when the car nagged. Verdict: excellent, if it's actually big enough. Go and sit in the back before you decide. Number 3, the Honda CR-V Hybrid. This is the one that does the invisible thing well, and I mean that as high praise. It starts, it carries the family and the luggage. It doesn't ask anything of you, and it doesn't make you nervous the month after the warranty runs out. Everything I said about hybrid drivetrains at number 5 applies here, and Honda have been at this a long time. But I want to point at the thing that makes this a better ownership proposition in Britain than some of the higher-rated cars we've talked about, because it's the thread again. There are a lot of CR-Vs here, have been for years. That means every independent garage of any size has had one in. It means parts are ordinary. And it means that when I write you a quote, I'm writing it knowing there are 3 other places within a few miles who could also do that job. That competition doesn't show up in any survey, and it's worth real money to you over 10 years. That's why I'd rather own a well-understood car with a good score than a rare car with a slightly better one. It isn't loyalty to a badge, it's that one of them has a market of people who can fix it, and the other doesn't. On a used example, make sure the hybrid system starts and hands over between electric and petrol smoothly, get the 12-volt battery tested, and be a bit suspicious of a spotless dashboard. A weak 12-volt battery throws all sorts of confusing warnings on an electrified car, and a recently cleared dashboard is a very easy thing to hand over at the point of sale. Ask when that battery was last changed and see what you get. Verdict: no argument from me. The score and the ownership both work here. Number 2, the Lexus NX Hybrid. This is the second trap on the list, and it catches people at the moment of buying rather than years later. The trap is that NX doesn't tell you what you've got. There's a conventional full hybrid, and there's a plug-in. On paper, the plug-in looks like the better car, everything the hybrid does, plus a proper electric range. It costs more, and people assume more is more. It is not a better version of the same thing. It's a different proposition with a condition attached. A plug-in only pays for itself if you actually plug it in, consistently, at home on a normal charger. If you can do that and most of your journeys are short, it's excellent and it'll cost you very little to run. If you can't, you've bought a heavier car with a large battery you're carrying around as ballast, you've paid a premium for capability you'll never use, and you've added the one component you didn't need. And I want to be careful about how I say this next bit, because it isn't an accusation. On a forecourt, the plug-in is the higher specification car. It's the one at the top of the range, it's the one with the better numbers on the sheet, and nobody standing there is doing anything wrong by showing it to you. But the question that decides whether it's right for you, can you plug it in at home every night easily, is a question about your driveway. And nobody on that forecourt can answer it for you. It's the one thing you have to bring with you. So work it out before you go. If the answer is no, or it's a cable across a pavement, buy the ordinary hybrid and don't look back. The rest of it is a genuinely calm, premium SUV, which is what a lot of people arrive at after deciding a German alternative feels like too much risk at 7 years old. Used, get a proper scan for stored faults before you commit, check the service history is on schedule, test every driver assistance function, and look at the tyres. A premium SUV on 4 mismatched budget tyres tells you the previous owner wanted the image without paying for the ownership. And whatever else they skipped, you're about to find out about. Verdict: very good, but pick the right one of the two. That choice matters more than the badge. And number one on their list is the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, and this is the one where the American data and British ownership agree most completely. Everything I said about hybrid drivetrains applies, but the RAV4 has something the others on this list don't, and it's the whole point of this video. There are a lot of them here, an enormous number, which means every independent garage has worked on one, parts are ordinary and available, and there's real competition on labour. Add that to a drivetrain that removes several of the usual failure points, and you get the thing I actually care about. Not just a car that rarely goes wrong, but a car that's cheap and quick to sort out on the rare occasion it does. That's both halves of the equation lining up, and it's the only car on this list where I'd say that without qualification. Now the warning, because it's the reason people get this one wrong. Everybody knows. The used market knows exactly what a RAV4 Hybrid is, and it's priced accordingly. Which means the badge on its own buys you nothing, because you're paying a premium that every other buyer is also paying. So the premium has to buy condition, or you've simply overpaid. Do not pay top money for a tired one just because it's a RAV4. Pay for a documented history with the services done on time, an underside you've actually looked at, healthy matched tyres, a long road test from cold, and no outstanding recall or software work. And ask what it did for a living. School runs, airport work, towing, long motorway commuting, each one leaves a different story in the brakes, the tyres, the suspension, and the driver's seat bolster. A car that's covered 100,000 motorway miles is often in better health than one that's done 30,000 in town, and I'd take the first one every time. Verdict: I'd agree with the list. Number one, on condition, and only on condition. Right, let me tell you what I think this list is really telling you, because it isn't 8 cars. Look at what actually won. Almost everything near the top is a mature, conventional hybrid in a car that sells in large numbers. And I don't think that's a coincidence, or a fashion, or brand magic. 2 things are happening at once, and only one of them is in the survey. The hybrid drivetrain removes failure points. No clutch, no conventional starter being hammered, brakes doing a fraction of the work, an engine that's helped rather than strained. Fewer things to go wrong, that's the half the data measures. The other half is that these are common cars. Common means every garage has seen one, parts are on a shelf, and 3 places can quote you for the same job. That's not engineering at all. That's a market, and it decides what you pay on the day something happens, which is the only day any of this becomes real money. The cars that fall down in Britain aren't the badly built ones. They're the well-built ones that hardly anybody here owns. That's not the manufacturer's fault, and it isn't in any survey. And I'll tell you the version of that I actually watched happen from behind 2 different counters. When a car is common, everything about owning it is competitive. 3 garages want the job, so the price stays honest. The part is on a shelf, so you get the car back on Thursday. Somebody has done that exact job before, so nobody's learning on your money. When a car is rare, every one of those goes the other way, and none of it is anybody being dishonest. It's just that you've stepped out of a market and into a queue. So the way to use a list like this is, let it tell you where the engineering risk is lower, then answer the second question yourself. Who fixes this near me? How many of them are there? And what do they charge? Ring 2 garages before you buy, not after. Say the model, say the year, and ask if they've had one in. It's 10 minutes, and it's the most valuable research you'll do, and it costs you nothing at all. Quick run back. 8. The Crosstrek. Good car, wrong country. Thin network and 4 tyres every time. 7. The CX-5. Buy the proven generation, not the familiar name on a redesign. 6. The Forester. Worth it if you genuinely need what it does. Expensive habit if you don't. 5. The Corolla Cross Hybrid. Sound, but check what else the money buys. 4. The UX. Excellent if it's big enough. Sit in the back first. 3. The RAV4 Hybrid. Score and ownership both work here. 2. The NX. Get the right one of the two. No home charger means the ordinary hybrid. 1. The RAV4 Hybrid. Agreed, but the premium has to buy condition. Right, that's me. Tell me in the comments what you're driving, how many miles it's done, and what's actually gone wrong with it. Because those replies are worth more to the next person watching than anything I've said today. Look after yourselves and ring the garage before you ring the dealer.